The two Jakes who were once teammates at Georgia finally got their calls on Saturday. Jacob Eason, who eventually transferred to Washington, went in the 4th round to the Indianapolis Colts. Meanwhile, Jake Fromm had to wait one extra round to hear his name called. He was a 5th rounder of the Buffalo Bills. He will now fight it out to be Josh Allen's backup in the AFC East. And with that, we welcome you to Total Access, presented to you by Ram Trucks. I am Chris Rose, and what an amazing 3 days it has been. The NFL Draft, the 2020 version, is indeed in the books. It's the first ever virtual draft, but believe me, there were real emotions as 255 young men have brand new football homes, and a few veterans do as well. Biggest name on the move on Saturday was Trent Williams. His saga is finally over in D.C. He was traded from the Redskins to the 49ers for a pair of picks. The 7-time Pro Bowler missed all of last season with a health scare, one which cost the team the trust of the Pro Bowl left tackle. Niners made this move because 6-time Pro Bowler Joe Staley announced his retirement on Saturday after 13 seasons. So here's how the deal worked out. The Niners gave up a 5th rounder this year, with the Redskins turned into Keith Ismail, a center out of San Diego State, and also they tacked on a 3rd round pick in the 2021 draft. For more on this, we welcome in our NFL media insider, Ian Rappaport. And Ian, this made sense on so many levels, starting with the Staley retirement on Saturday, but also Niners coach Kyle Shanahan was the offensive coordinator of the Redskins when they picked Trent Williams 4th overall in 2010. Seemed like a perfect matchup here, right?
Yeah, and having someone with familiarity for Trent Williams obviously was key. And finding a place that he wanted to go was key as well. Remember, the Minnesota Vikings were deep in talks with the Washington Redskins about a potential Trent Williams deal. That ended up getting scuttled late yesterday. And, of course, the Vikings ended up taking Ezra Cleveland, the tackle from Boise State, moving on there. And then it was all about the 49ers, and very quietly, the Niners and the Redskins, even given Kyle Shanahan's past and history in Washington, and, of course, Dan Snyder's feelings about that situation, this still had a chance to happen earlier this morning. Two sides got together. They were basically in agreement on terms, a 5th rounder, a 3 next year. Trent Williams wanted to go here, and a deal was done. And the reason why it got done, as you mentioned, at the Joe Staley retirement, the 49ers have known for several days they just needed to keep it quiet until Trent Williams came on board. Now, from one Pro Bowl left tackle to another Pro Bowl left tackle, and everyone, including me, can actually move on.
Yes, you can, but don't go anywhere. I'm sure we'll tap that brain in a little while. So Trent Williams, he has a history with his old new head coach, and he has a history with the cornerback as well, Richard Sherman. Remember this, after the 2012 playoff loss, Redskins against the Seahawks, that slap actually cost him nearly an $8,000 fine. So Richard Sherman, one of the active guys on social media, he actually admitted that he's going to need a rematch at some point. Shermanator always doing his thing with the crying. I love it as well. That should be fun. I can't wait until Trent Williams starts pulling out toward the corner's way during that first practice in training camp. All right, for more on this, we welcome in our Pro Bowl receiver Steve Smith and Charles Davis as well. Charles, kudos to John Lynch and Kyle Shanahan as well for being able to pull this move off to bring Trent Williams out to the left coast, right?
No doubt about it. And Trent and Richard Sherman, look, Apollo ended up in Rocky's corner. So, anything can happen. They'll be just fine. But I think absolutely kudos to them. And that's them understanding their team. My guess is that they had very close contact with Joe Staley about, are you planning on doing this? Are you leaning towards retirement in order to go ahead and make this move and have a seamless transition from one Pro Bowl left tackle to another Pro Bowl / All-Pro left tackle. Trent Williams, after not playing last year, body healing up, fresh start with a team that went to the Super Bowl. I expect him to be dominant right from day one.
Well, they're going to have a few fresh faces out there. In addition to Trent Williams, they did pick up a pair of first-round picks. Javon Kinlaw, he's going to take the place of DeForest Buckner, who was traded to the Colts. Brandon Ayuk adds more wide receiver depth along with Travis Benjamin. They did get rid of a pair of veterans in Marquise Goodwin, who was dealt to the Eagles. Matt Breida was traded to the Dolphins. So, Steve Smith, let's remember, this was a team that was a half quarter away from being crowned Super Bowl champions. Is it possible the 2020 version is actually better?
I don't know if we could say they're better, but they sure did restock, and they restocked with some good guys. Obviously, in the draft, they got some young, fresh legs at a cheaper price with a lot of longevity because Emmanuel Sanders, time is running out for him. But then they got, like you said, Staley retires, and then they get Trent Williams. Man, it just keeps getting better and better for John Lynch and Kyle Shanahan and the San Francisco 49ers. And they're doing it the right way, and they're doing it very well.
Well, they got a kid in Brandon Ayuk out of Arizona State that can help them not only as a wide receiver but as a return man as well. He was one of a half dozen receivers taken in round one back on Thursday night. As for another team that took a receiver in round one, that's right. CeeDee Lamb out of Oklahoma was sitting at 17, so Jerry on the yacht was partying it up. Let's be honest. Jerry was going to be partying it up regardless of who was sitting there at 17. So CeeDee Lamb, another piece to the puzzle on an offense that already includes a fine quarterback in Dak Prescott, one of the best running backs in Ezekiel Elliott, Amari Cooper re-upped for $100 million, and Michael Gallup steady, if nothing else. But Steve Smith, this is an offense that was ranked number one in the NFL a year ago, sixth in points. Is it the best offense going in the NFC, in your opinion?
Well, let's look at this. I love football, grew up playing football, watching football, and we just had the NFL 100 year. We talked about what the history of football. Man, if this is not history moving forward, it's nothing like it. When you really think about it and digest what they did with CeeDee Lamb, they've now become, possibly, dare I say it, is this now America's team that is rejuvenated to becoming a new dynasty? Because now you got to think about this offensively. They have to pick your poison. You have to decide which guy are you going to take away. Amari Cooper? Nah, if you take him away, then you got the young, fresh Lamb and CeeDee Lamb. Try to take him away. Then Coop has his day. Then Michael Gallup, he eats. And then after all of that, you still have to get a little bit of Ezekiel Elliott. So Dak Prescott is the guy. They just made it so attractive for him to re-sign. And it's take a bite of the apple, right? When you take this bite of the apple, everybody gets to eat. And I'm talking about it's a whole bunch of apples in this cart because it now, when you go to play the Dallas Cowboys, you got to decide how are you going to die? Who is going to kill you today? Because they are locked and loaded. And I really believe this, and I'm saying it again and again. It is a new dynasty. Nothing to take away from Michael Irvin, but those guys laid the foundation, and now these guys are taking the torch, and they're about to go, blow and go, and I'm excited to watch it. And I can't believe I'm saying that, but holy smokes, the Cowboys are dangerous.
Macintosh, Golden Delicious, whatever apples you want, Steve, they've got them now, and you're right about that. And look, because of what we're going through with this pandemic right now, we didn't even get the Kentucky Derby this year. But they would sound the bugle right now and play it, and the fanfare would happen as they go into the gate because these Cowboys are flying out of the gate now. CeeDee Lamb falls to them. Instead of restocking an offensive line, getting a corner, worrying about a safety, they said, let's go ahead and, as Steve described, let's just go ahead and get faster. All right, let's just go ahead and sprint and make everyone else try and keep up with us. They've got all that going on now. And by the way, they've got a young tight end named Blake Jarwin who's about to come into his own. He's going to get a chance to bite out of that apple, too, as well, Steve. So this is going to be a lot of fun. Look, we all know that they don't make them any bigger than they do in Texas. Now they don't make them any faster than they do in Texas.
Hey, Steve Smith, I got to tell you, I think Michael Irvin, you made him break out into a sweat more so than normal right now with that comment, because Mike's going to come out and say, hey, since we won Super Bowl 30, this is an organization that's won all of 4 playoff games. They got a lot to prove to me. I'm just telling you what Mike would say. Not me, just Mike, right?
I understand what you're saying, but we also know that America's team has been established because of what those men have done prior to these young men that are now on this stage, and it's darn good on paper.